Okay, dear student, we have the second topic of section A, GC Advanced Level History, Cameroon History since 1800, State and Kingdom in the 19th century Cameroon. Before I start, please, dear student, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to share so that it should help those who are far, especially in the war zone that cannot go to school, or those who cannot afford school fees but can afford the registration of the GCE. This video it will help them as they can sit at home and study by this video. So when you share, you are helping one person who cannot afford school. Thank you very much. Excuse me. Good. As we earlier said, we're under the state and kingdom. Introduction to this topic. Before colonization, there existed two political systems in Cameroon. This includes the centralized system and decentralized system. The centralized system was manifested by the Fulbe in the north and ethnic groups in the western grassland Bali, Nso, Bamun, Bamleke, Mankon, Bafut, Wum, Kom. While decentralized politics were found in the coastal and forest region of pre-colonial Cameroon like Douala, Bakweri, Bakosi, Bayan, Ejengam, the Fang, the Beti, the Bulu. The size, political setup, socio-economic organization, and population of the society led to their distinction as either state or kingdom. States were found in the forest and coastal region, while kingdoms or fondom or lamidate were established in the grassland in the savanna region. Two kingdoms existed in the centralized community, that is, the patrilineal kingdoms, which is man succeeded by his own son, and matrilineal kingdom, man succeeded by his sister's son. In the grassland, patrilineal kingdoms were So, Bafut, Mankon, Bali, Bamileke, and Bamun. While matrilineal kingdoms include the Kom, the Wum or Angem, and the Bum. However, this state and kingdom had some differences and similarity. Now, we will focus on the first form of system of administration that existed in the 19th century Cameroon, the pre-colonial Cameroon. We are going to focus with centralized state or state-like society of the grass field. These states were states with well-organized political institutions. They had a central authority who was the chief. The chief was called Foin in Kom, Fon in So, Sultan in Bamun, and Lamido in the Adamawa area. This centralized state had a well-structured administrative setup that was similar to the modern administrative system we have today. After having a brief introduction of the centralized state, we are now moving to examine the political, social, and economic organization of the kingdom or fondom. We will start with the political organization of the kingdoms or fondom. How were they organized politically? How were they organized? We'll start with administration. They practice a centralized system of government, and the political setup was the same whether in patrilineal or matrilineal kingdom. At the head of administration was a supreme leader who was known several as Fon in the Bamina Grassland Kingdom, Fu in Bamileke Kingdoms, and Fon in Bamun. The supreme ruler was assisted by councillors, chief quarters, and family heads in the discharge of his duty. The chief performed the following political, social, and religious functions. First, the king took final decision of the land after consulting the councillors. The chief ratified all appointments with the foundom. The king of Fon granted honor to deserved persons in the foundom. He acted as a supreme judge. He had power to declare war and to sue for peace. He acted as the chief priest and most often than not acted as mediator between the living in his land and the dead. The king was the commander of the armed force. Good. Still under administration, the Fon were generally assisted by councillors. They were known severally as Ndifo in Bafut, Bali and Bali Nyonga, that is Ndifo in Bafut and Bali Nyonga, Titamfon in Bamun, Kamve in the Bamileke kingdom, and the Viba in So. The number of councillors differ with the tradition of the people. Number of councillors differ with the tradition of people are repeat. The foundom were made up of a number of villages, and each village was headed by a chief who paid allegiance to the fon. The village chief was directly responsible for the execution of the palace decision within the village community. Under the village chief were the quarter heads who executed palace decision within their locality under the supervision of the village head. Below the quarter heads were heads of large family that live within particular quarters. The family were basic unit for the execution of palace decision. Lastly, in the administration, women were equally given a place in the administration of the foundom or kingdom. Some women, most often termed as queen mother, such as the Namfon in Kom, the Ya in So, the Mafo in Mankon, played an important role in the politics of the foundom. They were charged with the responsibility of training the fawn's wife, took care of the feeding of the fawn, reception of female foreign dignitary, and acted as advisor to the fawn. Good. After examining how the centralized system were administered in terms of politics, we are now moving to look at the second political organization, which is the Regularity Society. First of all, the Regularity Society were the legislative organ. They were secretive and reserved only for the male flock through affiliation or initiation. They were severally called as Kwifon in Kom, Ngwerong in So, and Ngumba in Bali. They performed the following function. The implementation and enforcement of palace decision was one of their functions. They assigned punishment to criminal. They protected the foundom and fawn. They make sure that they suppress any rebellion within the foundom. Mobilization of the people for community work, settlement of dispute, perform certain ritual for the foundom, announce the disappearance of the fund and later perform burial rites, enthrone the new fund during the burial ceremony of the late fund. These were the functions of the Regularity Society. As you had the Kwifan in Kom, the Ngwerong in So, and Kumba in Bali. These were secret society. They acted as legislative organ. Good. We move to the next political organization is in the domain of military organization or war clubs. The size, influence, and population of each fondom depended on its ability to expand. The result of such expansion were constant wars. Stronger and larger fondom launched wars against weaker ones in order to ride and subjugate them or acquire new territories. Each fondom had war clubs referred to as the Njong in Kom, Fo in So, Manjong in Bafut. Most weapons were procured through the blacksmith or they brought such from other kingdoms and included spear, bow, and arrows. The war clubs performed the following function. They defend the kingdom against any external attack or aggression. This was its main reason. For example, the Saw War Club was divided into two main sectors. The Mbang, the Mbangam, headed by proficient army general called Formi. You are the Formingam and you are the Formi Mba. Now, they also waged wars of conquest and expansion for the fondom or kingdom. They organized hunting parties in the kingdom. After examining military organization of war club, we move now to examine what the social organization of the kingdom. How were they organized in terms of socially? You have one class social classification. People in the centralized society were divided into distinctive classes. The first class was made up of the fawn or chief and his family. Below the royal family were palace retainers who were known various in different states as Chintu in Kom, Viba in So, Jifo in Bali, and Bafut. The last class was made up of commoners and slaves. These people were settlers in villages, as you can see in the pictures. Succession. The kingdoms in the grassland were either patrilineal or matrilineal. In patrilineal kingdoms like Bali, Mankom, Bafut, Bamun, Bamileke, and So, successor of the fawn king was the first male child, while in matrilineal kingdom like the Kum, Hum or Angem and Bum, the fawn was succeeded by his sister's son. However, the similarity between the patrilineal and matrilineal kingdom was that the successor was always the male child in patrilineal was always a male child. In patrilineal fondoms, where the fawn or family died without a male or successor, there was bound to be succession dispute, especially with the Bali chambers. You have marriage. Polygamous marriage were a common phenomenon in both patrilineal and matrilineal kingdom. Having many wives was considered a source of prestige and wealth. The possession of many wives and children by the fawn signified a symbol of strength and authority over his subject and also helped to consolidate relations with friendly fondoms from where some of the wives were selected. The fawns of Kom, Bafut, and So had close to 100 wives each before annexation. The next social organization is traditional religion. They believe in many gods, good and evil spirits, as well as witchcraft. The fawns were considered intermediary between the living and the gods. Each fawn played the role of supreme high priest and had to do incarnation for the purification of the fandom. Before the advent of Christianity, human sacrifices were very common. Fawn to them never died but went on journey, and as such they had to be buried with some subject to accompany them on his journey. The royal grave shrine where funds were buried was used as a dwelling hut, and new funds were enthroned in this same shrine as so as to be armed with the mystical powers of their predecessor. The next is health. Illnesses or sicknesses were believed to be of supernatural origin and as such could only be treated supernaturally. This made divination to be very common practice. Patients pay visit to diviners who did not only reveal to them the type of diseases they were suffering from and the doctor who could treat them, but also sometimes the causes of the illness. This next social organization of the centralized system is seen in the domain of education. In the centralized state or kingdom, there was no formal education. While the male child was trained and prepared for manhood in areas like smarting, hunting, and craving, the female child was trained and prepared for womanhood in areas like domestic arts and childbearing. After examining the social organization of the centralized system or state, we move to examine now the economic organization of the kingdoms or economic organization of the centralized state or kingdom. Start with agriculture. It involved the cultivation of crops and the rearing of animals. It was the main economic activity of the centralized kingdoms. The men cleared the farms while the women tilled the soil, planted wheat, and harvested the crops whenever they were ready for consumption. Tools for farming like hoes, cutlass, and axes were mainly produced in Oko, Babungo, Babanki, and Kom. The most important crops cultivated include maize, millet, hairy yams, cocoyams, plantains, cowpeas, and beans. Livestock farming was also an important arm of agriculture. Goats were reared in the Bamina grassland and pigs in the Bambileke chiefdom. These animals were used to pay bride price or to offer sacrifice to the gods. Dogs were kept for hunting, while fowls were equally kept and used to perform family sacrifice to the ancestor. Cattle rearing were later introduced as a result of the migration and settlement of the Mbororo. The next economic organization of the centralized society or kingdom was seen in the domain of trade. Both domestic and external trade was carried out. Every kingdom was involved in one form of trade or the other. But slave trade was very prominent among slave trading communities like the Bali, Nso, and Kom. This tribe provided slaves both for the Trans-Sahara and the transatlantic slave trade. Other trade items include kola nut, basket, made, and tools. Kola nut were exported from Kom, So, and Oku to the Ibi and Yola market in the Adamawa in northern Cameroon, while ivory from the grassland were also sold to English and French traders in the north. Funds were suppliers of elephant tusks because they were reserved for them whenever an elephant was killed. We move to the next economic organization, which is in the form of art and craft. There was remarkable development in art and craft among the Bamun, Oku, Bafut, and Kom. Cavers produced calling drums, dancing drum, masks of various types, and boxes which they exchanged for other items from neighboring kingdoms. Tools and weapons made of iron were also produced in Bafut, Babankim, and Kom. Good. These were economic organization of the centralized society. Now, in this particular short video, we have seen centralized kingdom. We have seen their characteristics. Their characteristics are differentiated in the political, social, and economic organization. Join my WhatsApp group, GC Advanced Level History by Sir Moses. through this number 679199217. 679199217. I repeat again, this video is to help those who are far, especially those who are in the war zone which cannot afford education. They can use this video, revise, study, and write the GC without any difficulty. Below, I'm going to drop down a particular question of which, after you finish listening to this old video and watching this video, you may be able to answer the question without any difficulties. Please don't forget to like and share, as sharing, you are helping those who cannot afford education. You are helping those who do not understand the topic. You are helping people to pass a particular exam, which God is going to also bless you to also pass this exam. Thank you very much, Sir Moses. To God be the glory.